In a barren land of death, a skeleton was crawling on the ground. His name was Jiang Chen and he used to be a pro gamer. But unfortunately, he had turned into a skeleton. As he desperately tried to reach the sword in front of him, a giant red foot grabbed hold of him. It was a ferocious predator. He asked himself why something like that was happening to him. In the year 2025, a highly realistic open-world game called The Great Wasteland was launched. Swords and magic have been a subject of humanity's fascination and fantasies. The Great Wasteland allowed for such fantasies to turn into reality. With thousands of jobs and billions of missions available, the game allowed many terminally online netizens to stay within this virtual fantasy of theirs. The game's popularity brought an immense number of orders to the beta testing studio that was producing it. As a result, countless beta testers had to work overtime to test the game out. And among the beta testers that had joined, Jiang Chen was one of them. However, nearly 3 weeks before the game's launch, he, who had ended up working 42 hours in order to complete a huge chain of requests, had a heart attack. Even as he was dying, the company was only interested in the equipment in his inventory. After his death, when he opened his eyes, he saw a smoking hot chick. And he had turned into a skeleton that she summoned with necromancy. As he looked closer, he wondered if he had gone to heaven. Suddenly, an explosion occurred behind them. It was caused by an elite zombified wolf. He recognized it at a glance. Because it was a monster that was seen in the starting area of the Great Wasteland, the Desert of Death. He finally understood that he wasn't in heaven, but was reincarnated in the Great Wasteland. The female necromancer that summoned him ordered him to stop messing around and stop the zombified wolf. Then the wolf decided to attack. It charged right at them. Jiang Chen knew that the zombified elite wolf was a level 2 monster, and its weakness was its neck. He killed many of them during the private open beta test. As they exchanged blows, his arm was blown to bits. Then the wolf struck him with its paw and sent him flying. Seeing the condition of his body, he realized that he had reincarnated as a fucking beginner skeleton soldier. When he desperately tried to reach the sword in front of him, a giant red foot grabbed hold of him. As the zombified wolf glared at its prey, Jiang Chen recalled the past. He became a pro when he was younger and managed to win 2 championships, leaving behind an amazing record in pro esports. At that time, he had thought he was the world's protagonist. But a car accident changed everything. The injury from the accident left his hand shaking endlessly, which forced him to end his professional gaming career. In order to pay for the hefty medical bills and the bonds of the contracts that he breached, he had to set his pride aside and become a beta tester for games. He who had refused to bow down to fate ended up dying like trash. No one gave a shit about his death, and he was full of regrets. He refused to die like that and said, "Fuck off." Since God gave him another chance to live, even in the deep darkness of despair, he desperately crawled to live. His tenacity triggered a hidden power. A system window notified him that it detected his desire to live. The godly evolutionary system had been awakened. The system's purpose was to help its users evolve endlessly until they reached the peak and became the strongest creature in that world. The godly evolutionary system used a special gift pack to heal his body. Seeing that, the zombified wolf got intimidated and backed away. But the powered-up Jiang Chen cut its head off clean. The female necromancer was surprised and Jiang Chen stood atop the wolf's body. As the buff from the godly evolutionary system ended, he leveled up to level 2 and received 10 evolutionary points. He thought to himself that his body wasn't as bad as he thought. And the hot necromancer wondered why the skeleton she summoned was so amazing. The system window showed his status. His name was Jiang Chen, his level was 1, his species was an undead skeleton, health was 100, magic 0, attack was 2 but the bone sword added an additional 3 attack power, defense 1, and weapon was a beginner bone sword. His strength was 100 and his evolutionary points were 10 out of 100. He had no skills, and lastly, his owner was just a level 1 dumb cutie. The Great Wasteland was an extremely realistic game. But because of that, the various mechanics in the game all held great potential. There was also a small chance of a player's summon undergoing mutations. But those things could only happen by chance. And it was definitely not an exaggeration to say that such an opportunity was a 1 in a million shot. So a summon that had undergone mutation would eventually become a cornerstone for the player's growth in terms of increasing their level. Killing monsters far above their current level wouldn't even be a pipe dream. After listening through all that in the players' community, she thought that she was really lucky that her summon had mutated. Her player nickname was, "Just a Dumb Cutie." Her level was 3 and her real name was Zhang Meng. She was a beginner necromancer with poor stats. This was why getting a mutated summon was like winning a lottery for her. Jiang Chen went on to hunt the zombified wolves and earned a lot of wolf teeth. They were all drops that could be exchanged for money. The female necromancer was shocked to see his hunting speed. At that point, she was confused about who the master or the summon was. Despite having such a powerful summon, her summoning level was still level 1. After he killed a bunch of those wolves, he had gained enough experience to adjust to his new body. The wolves in the newbie area were no longer a threat to him. He wasn't worried about survival anymore, but he never expected to be reborn into the world of the Great Wasteland. He concluded that the woman who summoned him must be a player. Unfortunately, without his vocal cords, he couldn't even make a sound. But what surprised him the most was the divine evolutionary system. It looked like he would be able to evolve continuously as long as he kept on killing monsters or players. He also noticed that he got evolutionary points and strength points. Strength points could be used to fortify his weapon. Even though he was a private beta tester, he never once heard about such a thing, a summon that has a system and could evolve on its own. He who had reincarnated as the lowest level skeleton soldier wondered what he would eventually become after evolving. At that moment, the system notified him that he had met the requirements to evolve. The system asked him if he wanted to evolve into a skeleton swordsman. He had to spend 100 evolution points to evolve into a skeleton swordsman. Since he had no other option, he wanted to see how much it would allow him to evolve, so he pressed yes. Thus the evolution commenced. A huge wave of fire enveloped his body. The system notified him that he would be protected for 3 seconds due to the evolution. His health limit and mana had increased by 80%. All his stats had also increased by 80% and he received the weapon of a skeleton swordsman, a bone steel sword. He had successfully evolved into a second-rank skeleton swordsman. His first evolution helped him unlock a lot of stats. He also received a passive skill called Swift Draw, which could increase his attack speed by 20%. It was incredibly suitable for him, as it compensated for his lack of strength as a skeleton. With that, even without techniques, his battle strength increased far above that of other players. As a summon, if others were to discover that he had a will of his own, he would be hunted down. Since he was solo and the players had big guilds, he needed to become strong enough to fight at least 100 people on his own. To become stronger than all of them, he had to gather more evolution points. Since he leveled up a lot, the wolves stopped giving him evolution points. He needed to change his hunting ground. And also he wanted to check how much of a connection he had with his master. But before that, he had to bring her with him. As he approached her, she was shocked by his new appearance and weapon. She was sure that he really was a mutated summon. She hugged him and told him to carry her to the apex of her life. She wanted to wait for the wolves to respawn, so he could hunt them again and she would collect the loot. But Jiang Chen tried to communicate with her. When he crossed his hand, she guessed that he didn't want to stay there. When he pointed to somewhere, she guessed that he wanted to go somewhere else to kill monsters. Jiang Chen thought his communication skill was so on point, but the female player started crying and told him that she didn't want to move. Jiang Chen knew that other players would notice something was wrong when they saw that all the zombified wolves had been killed. PK wasn't something abnormal. High-level players would kill promising newbies to steal their loot. And if that dumb girl were to die, he would probably die too. He had no choice, so he forcibly picked her up. As the female player was scolding him for disobeying her, all he could think about was that he no longer had any attachments in the real world. What he had to do was use his knowledge of the game to get ahead of the other players and become stronger. The first of those hidden bosses and unique pieces of equipment, he would get them all. He had decided their next destination. Although it was dangerous, it would definitely be worth it. The area that was closest and had a hidden dungeon in it, the Ferocious Bear Mountain. At the Ferocious Bear Mountain, players who were hunting were instead being hunted by the bears. Although it was a game, they couldn't afford to die because then they would lose all their equipment and money. At that moment, the bald player was relieved that his teammate had come back for him. But it was a skeleton and a dumb cutie. He screamed saying it was a ghost, and Jiang Meng also freaked out to hear him scream. Seconds later, the player died from bleeding. Then, a level 7 ferocious clawed bear charged at them. Jiang Meng was scared that she might die and lose all her items, so she wanted to leave. But Jiang Chen knew that there was no better opportunity to grow. Not only were all the other players dead, they even gathered a lot of bears in one spot for him. Jiang Meng begged him to leave, but Jiang Chen rushed at the bears. He planned to lure all the bears at himself, so he wouldn't have to worry about the dumb cutie. As he got close, one of the bears attacked him with its claw. As he dodged it, another one attacked with a bite. He dodged that too. With his low health he wouldn't be able to survive 2 hits. So he paid attention to not taking any damage. Jiang Meng was shocked. Not only were the ferocious bears unable to touch him, but he also made them indirectly attack each other. As a skeleton, his physical engine components were even lighter and faster than that of a player. Although the ferocious bears had lots of health and heavy damage, they were slow. So he had the advantage in terms of speed. Their weakness lay at their head and ankles. He used his speed to sever their tendons completely. After a while, he managed to cripple all the bears. But then, one of the bears got up. There was a reason the ferocious clawed bear was called the newbie player killers. When they were pushed into an unfavorable situation, there was a chance for them to activate their unique skill, lightning. It could instantly paralyze a player. As soon as they were paralyzed, the bears would rush in and kill them, hence they were called the newbie killers. But there was one thing they miscalculated: as an undead he no longer had any blood or flesh. So there was no way he would be paralyzed from something like that. Jiang Chen stabbed the bear in its vital point, causing lethal damage. With the unique characteristics of the skeleton species, he was able to kill the bears easily. Jiang Chen was shocked at how strong her summon was. His fluid and fast movements were especially good. It reminded her of the legendary player with godlike movements, Jiang Chen. His movements were exactly the same as him. Then it hit her. She thought that the developers put an Easter egg for Jiang Chen, and she managed to summon it. Then she started to loot the bear corpses. She thought she would make good use of such a good summon. At the same time, Jiang Chen felt a chill behind him. The system showed him that he had 420 evolution points and wasn't too far off from his next evolution. At that moment, the system complimented him, saying his strength was truly breathtaking and it unlocked a new evolution path. He had 3 choices: the Skeleton Berserker and the Skeleton Bandit were both quite good and cost 1000 evolution points. On the other hand, the hidden evolution path was unknown and cost 2000 points. Jiang Chen used some common sense that high risks often mean high returns. So even though it would take him longer to gather 2000 evolution points, he chose the hidden route. After hunting for a few hours, he managed to kill every ferocious clawed bear in the area. With his increased level, the amount of evolution points he received had dropped significantly. He was just short of 20 points to his next evolution. However, there were no more low-level monsters in the mountain, and it would take a day and a half for them to respawn. Although he could gather enough evolution points, he managed to kill enough bears within the required time and level. Then, the system warned him that the hidden boss had appeared in the vicinity. Jiang Chen went straight to see the hidden boss. The requirements to trigger the hidden boss were incredibly strict. Only players above level 10 and who had managed to kill all the bears within 45 minutes would be able to trigger the hidden boss. With such impossible requirements, it was very difficult for other players to even discover that there was a hidden boss there. The hidden boss was called the King of the Bear Mountain, and it was huge. Jiang didn't dare to attack it right away, because it had a troublesome skill that could instantly kill most players. Even if he relied on his speed and experience to try to forcibly kill it, his chances of surviving would be very low. But he couldn't remember what skill that boss had. There were too many little bosses in the Great Wasteland, he couldn't remember all of them. Jiang Chen couldn't defeat the hidden boss with his current strength, so he had no choice but to wait for the low-leveled bears to respawn. Then he thought that the new thing he felt was quite interesting. He felt a string of magic connecting him to his master. Even though the distance between them was a little far, he could still feel what she was doing. He was right, she was still looting the corpses. At that moment, a bunch of rough-looking players arrived at the scene. It turned out the entire Bear Mountain was the territory of the guild, the Tiger Hunting Guild. They were angry that someone had killed all the bears in their territory. Then the one with the green hair suggested that it could be the Brawler Guild, but their leader told him to shut up and search the area for the culprits. When the greenhead was searching the area, he saw a dumb cutie looting the corpses. He shouted and asked her where she came from, and who she was. Then the rest of the guild members showed up. Zhang Meng with an embarrassed expression explained that her summon had run away and she was simply searching for him. Their party leader laughed hearing that a summon could run away, then he ordered the archer to take care of her. The archer used his investigation skills on her. He confirmed that she was telling the truth. He learned that she wasn't in a party, she was a level 9 necromancer and only had one skeleton summon. There was no way someone like that could do all that by herself. He told them that she was a looter that accidentally entered the mountain. Hearing that, the leader told him that he could do whatever he wanted to do with her. Then they continued their search. After that, the archer suddenly came behind her. She was surprised to see how fast he was. He told her that the most realistic part of the Great Wasteland was the sense of touch. Jiang Chen couldn't agree more. As the guild members were leaving, they heard the archer scream. They were shocked to see that a skeleton had managed to ambush their archer. He had cut off his hands and ran away. Then it hit him that the skeleton soldier was a swordsman, so they might have been the ones responsible for the bear massacre. They decided to chase after them. As Jiang Chen was running through the forest with a dumb cutie on his back, the tiger hunting guild chased after them. Zhang Meng told him to stop running so she could help him attack them. But Jiang Cheng ignored her. She thought that her little skeleton summon was in love with her, which was probably why he wasn't putting her down. At that moment, Jiang Chen threw her into a bush. She was angry that he did that, but it turned out he did that to lure them away. Looking at the members of the Tiger Hunting Guild, he could tell they made their team to defeat players and loot them. They had a close combat fighter to pressure him and a long-range fighter to scout and disrupt enemies. But thankfully their long-range fighter was an easy target. The attack he did earlier hurt his ridiculously weak ego. He only needed one more push. As Jiang Chen stopped and confronted them, they noticed that the girl was gone. The leader was smarter than he looked. He anticipated that the necromancer was probably hiding close by. On top of that, the area behind the skeleton gave him a dangerous feeling. He wanted to learn more about their abilities before attacking, so he ordered his archer to use his investigation skills to scout the area. But the archer was pissed that a mere skeleton summon cut off his arm. Jiang Chen laughed. He mocked him further by taunting him. The archer called him a son of a bitch and threw his poison daggers. Seeing him fall for his trap so easily, Jiang Chen couldn't help but laugh. He deflected all the daggers, and he redirected them in a specific direction. Since their side had already initiated the attack, the leader chose to overlook the suspicious parts and ordered his men to attack. He jumped up into the air and dropped an attack called Heavy Warhammer Strike. The leader was surprised that a low-rank skeleton was so fast. But at that moment, a system notification informed them that the hidden boss of the ferocious Bear Mountain, the king of the Bear Mountain, had noticed them. Suddenly, a huge monster came crashing from the sky. The leader was shocked to see that the hidden boss that their guild master was looking for had finally appeared. As the Bear King landed, it instantly killed the archer. He was confused as to why it appeared, but then it hit him. The female necromancer's real goal was probably the hidden boss all along. The king of Bear Mountain let out a ferocious roar, so the leader ordered his men to retreat. But it was too late. The hidden boss activated its skill, Sandstorm Domain. It was a skill that could manipulate gravity. As they were desperately fighting, Jiang Chen just stood there watching. He knew that the hidden boss was just a beginner area boss and the duration of its skill was short. So he decided to stand by and observe how the Tiger Hunting Guild would hold up against it. Seeing Jiang Chen just stand there, the leader thought that they were being played by the female necromancer. A few moments later, the gravity manipulation skill disappeared. He took that chance to try to run away. They wanted to retreat quickly to report the appearance of the hidden boss to their guild master. But when he looked to his right, the skeleton wasn't there anymore. As they were distracted, Jiang Chen cut off their heads. As the leader was dying, he couldn't believe that he was killed by a summon. Even until the end, Jiang Chen provoked them. After that, the king of Bear Mountain came rushing at him. At the same time, the system notified him that he had gained 20 evolutionary points and that he could evolve. With the hidden boss only a hair's breadth away, he pressed yes. Immediately, a bolt of lightning hit Jiang Chen. Due to the evolution, he gained invulnerability for 3 seconds. He had successfully evolved into a third-rank skeleton close combat striker. He obtained the skill called Bone Armor Level 1. Then as soon as the invulnerability ended, he used his new skill called Swift Draw and landed a critical blow on its eye. Jiang Chen knew that the hidden boss had a constitution similar to a bear, so its weakness was still in its joints and neck. He taunted the bear. So, the bear attacked him immediately and Jiang Chen dodged. Despite evolving, he was still not strong enough to fight it head-on. However, his new skill Bone Armor Level 1 had given him the ability to take on long-range fights. He shot powerful needles, further damaging its eyes. Then the king of the Bear Mountain activated its skill Sandstorm Domain. Under obstruction of the gravitational pull, his actions were limited. So he used the gravitational force to his advantage and shot the bone needle. That way it won't miss. He damaged both its eyes and he went in closer. He used the gravitational force to strengthen his attack and attacked the bear's stomach. As a last-ditch effort, the hidden boss used the Sandstorm Domain to move all objects around to attack Jiang Chen. But it didn't stop him. He rode the objects to close the distance, and charged straight at it. As he got close to its face, he shot his bone needles once more. Then he stabbed deep into its eyes with his sword. The bear was in shock, and the gravitational force disappeared. With its severe condition, it was inevitable for it to die. At that moment, he suddenly heard a voice. The king of Bear Mountain spoke and told him that he had waited for someone like him for a long time. Jiang Chen was confused because the early bosses were never designed to interact with players. The bear said that he wanted to give him the last present of the ferocious Bear Mountain. The system notified him that the king of Bear Mountain was about to activate his skill, 1,000 Lightning Strikes. So he should pay close attention and avoid it. Jiang Chen thought that the only explanation for that situation would be that the developers added an extra stage and introduction line to the bosses in the public release. Even though it looked dangerous, he faced that skill head-on. Because he was immune to lightning skills. The 1,000 Lightning Strike skill could be seen from far away. Seeing that, a dumb cutie rushed towards it. Zhang Meng had her bags filled with the loot from the bear corpses. So even though she got a 40% movement reduction, she ran toward her skeleton summon. She thought that she could be useful one way or another. Then suddenly, she saw something falling from the sky. It was the head of the hidden boss. The system notified her that the first kill of the hidden boss of Bear Mountain had been achieved by the player called Just a Dumb Cutie. More messages said that Jiang Chen leveled up and his current level was level 10. It advised him to go to the main city to choose his specialization. And that is all for now. I've recapped all the chapters that were released at the time of making this video. I will make a part 2 video when more chapters are released. So if you don't want to miss that, subscribe and turn on notifications.